Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Breakdown with Luke podcast. This week we got a lot to cover, including ADT suing Amazon. Nest from Google may soon be replacing some employees at hotels. Astronomers guesstimate, maybe we should say, how many intelligent civilizations out there that we could possibly meet. More signs that things are getting back to normal, and Blue Pepsi is coming back. That and a whole lot more coming up on this week's The Breakdown with Luke podcast. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, don't worry. I got MP3 versions all over the place. So if you're looking for us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and so many more, you can find the Breakdown with Luke just by searching in your favorite podcasting app in most places. And if you want some help finding it, I'll put a link to them down in the show notes to my little podcasting page, which has links to all the app stores, or I should say podcast stores that have it. Also, if you want me to answer a question that you may have in the podcast or a story you think I should talk about, send me an email, thebreakdownwithluke@gmail.com. Yes, it's thebreakdownwithluke@gmail.com. You can send me an email there, and I'll try to answer some of those questions in future podcasts. If you have any, send me a link. I'd love to hear from you. Also, we have a Discord group. If you want to chat with me live, I'll put a link to the Discord there. And you can find a playlist of all the old podcasts on YouTube in the links down below. First comment and inside the show notes. If you enjoy this podcast, do me a huge favor. Let other people know about it. I would really enjoy that support as we continue to grow step by step, day by day. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate it. All right, let's jump into the news of the day before I get into my rant of the week. ADT is suing Amazon over its Ring doorbells. Not over the tech, not over the actual security system, not even over the doorbell itself, but for the sign that Ring uses. Both of them use an octagon blue sign. One says Ring, one says ADT. They're both blue, but they're pretty different shades of blue. But ADT is saying that Amazon sign is virtually indistinguishable from theirs and could lead to product confusion. Now, there is certain laws that protect companies. You can't launch a company that is almost identical in name, but a few letters off. Now, that can be very difficult nowadays. I've had companies do this to me in the past. And it is annoying that somebody comes in and says, hey, you got a pretty successful business there. I'm going to try to confuse customers to think I'm you. And that is where the confusion is. If you're deliberately trying to confuse customers in an attempt to steal them, that is actually not allowed. You can't infringe on somebody's intellectual property by making it so similar that people are confused, for example. Now, the issue here is the fact that they're both octagons and they're both different shades of blue enough. Now, ADT and Ring are pretty different words. Now, if it was, for instance, ATD, if everything was the same but it was ATD and say ADT, then you could definitely get in an argument here. It should be kind of interesting to see how this plays out. Honestly, this feels a little bit like desperation on ADT's part, that they're losing market share. Increasingly, there's a lot cheaper options on the market for home security out there. I'm sure they're losing market share. I haven't looked this up. But Ring is growing, backed by the popular support of Amazon, really. I was a big fan of Ring before Amazon owned them and have really enjoyed the products. I enjoy the fact that I have a camera in the backyard. I enjoy the doorbell feature. I really love it when a package comes and you don't want to run to the door. You can see on the little Echo or on your phone to see if it's somebody really at the door for you or if it's just the postman leaving a package. I love that ability there to just kind of look and see without needing to commit to run out to the door first. Now, ADT offers other doorbell products, but I hear Ring are pretty popular with them too. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Have you ever looked at a Ring doorbell and confused it with ADT? Have you ever looked at their sign and confused it with ADT? I think that's going to be kind of hard. Yeah, they're blue. But just because it's a certain shape and a different shade of blue, I don't think that's enough to have to confuse it. Because they're very different. Ring and ADT don't sound alike, don't look alike on the sign. If I'm wrong, I'd love to hear from you. All right, so we talked about this a few podcasts ago, but there's an increasing push to replace employees in hotels. And one of the biggest costs of a hotel is its employees, to have people there 24/7. Increasingly, hotels are starting to turn to artificial intelligence to fill this gap. Now, Google's Nest Hub is going to be partnering with many hotels to put them inside hotel rooms to offer kind of a assistant in your room to answer questions about the hotel, the area. The comment, where's the closest pizza joint? Where's a good place to do this, that? Those kind of questions that can clog up a front desk, they're hoping that using the Nest Hub will help grow that. Google is hoping that the putting in the Nest Hub into the hotel rooms will allow them to sell more Nest Hubs as people try them out and like them. Now, Google is not alone in this effort. There's quite a few companies doing it. Amazon actually put Echoes in quite a few hotels over. I think it first started off in Vegas at the Wynn, but I believe now multiple hotels use Amazon's Alexa enabled devices in hotel rooms. It's quite a nice feature there. It also helps people become more used to the idea of using an AI. A lot of people credit the growth of cable TV to hotel rooms. People would stay in them, realize how cool this is, and go that way. When I was in college, my professor talked about going to a hotel and seeing a big HD screen in his hotel room. He said he went home and said it's time to upgrade to his wife, and he went and bought one because he thought it was such an amazing experience watching a sporting event in HD on a big HD TV in a hotel room he was on for a business trip. So it actually works, and it seems like Google and Amazon are hoping that by having that product in your hotel room, it will help that growth. Now, it'll be interesting to see how common these become. We do see smart assistants kind of a little bit of everywhere right now. Most people have a smartphone with them in there. So we're really going to see it where people need to wait to get a hotel to try it out. But having that there, maybe it can pull some Echo users over to the Google Nest Hub. Let me know. Would you use this in a hotel room? Do you like the idea? Let me hear it from you. All right. Astronomers reportedly have guesstimated, they're saying estimate, I'm going to say guesstimate, how many intelligent civilizations that are able to communicate with us if we could ever reach them someday. Now, this is just for our galaxy, but they say there's about 36 intelligent civilizations in our galaxy that we could possibly communicate with someday. Now, I would say this is a guesstimate. There's a lot of assumptions going in this. It's based off of how many planets are around each star we've witnessed, how many of those are within the so-called habitable zone, which is a distance from the sun where it's not too close that it burns up, not too far away that it would freeze. There's a certain range from each star, depending on how powerful that star is, where it can host water. It won't freeze, it won't burn off by being too close, for example. Now, it is kind of cool, though 36 sounds like a lot. 36 civilizations. I would absolutely love to meet some other alien races. I think that would be very interesting. But the problem is, this is a big galaxy. Even though we're just talking about our galaxy, you're talking about a very far range that we could all be so far sprung out that just sending radio messages and more could take decades to get the messages back and forth. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But increasingly we are seeing that there are other planets, and there are increasingly number of planets that are within the habitable zone. If a percentage of those out there are within the lifespan and actually got life, then 36 does seem like a reasonable number. Let me know. Would you ever want to communicate with them? But, if this is true, this does mean, though, that the average civilization will be about 17,000 light years if we're equally spread out across this galaxy. 17,000 light years is a long time. Not only would we need to break the speed of light, we would need to find a way to go a whole lot faster than the speed of light in order to cross these. All right, moving on to the next story. Things seem to be getting back to normal, and I thought this was kind of interesting. CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which is a huge trade show held every January in Vegas. I've gone to it for quite a few years in a row now, and had a lot of fun doing it. I know a lot of people hate CES. I don't think I've ever hated it. I've had towards the end where I'm like, I'm ready to go home, especially in 2020, where I had a wedding before in Vegas and then stayed for 3 days waiting for the Consumer Electronics Show to start, and then went to the whole show. I ended up being there for almost 2 weeks in Vegas because of that. But they announced that in 2022, they will return to in-person attendance there, but they will still have a large virtual component and run from January 3rd through the 8th. Now, I am kind of sad that they're moving it back up. For a long time, it was right after the New Year. And the thing is, they say January 3rd through the 8th. Well, in actuality, press days would be, for example, on the 2nd of January with that. So you actually have to get there early. More than once, I've flown out to CES on New Year's Day. And I always kind of hated that. So I was enjoying it when they moved it to the second full week of, or the first full week of January, second full week January, depending on how it kind of worked out. I kind of miss when they did that in the past. Oh, quick correction. I just noticed it says that the press days would be January 3rd and 4th. Still, that means I'm flying out on the 2nd at best, with the public portion on January 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Now, I actually think this is a good idea. CES, while it's a big trade show for press to come, see what's new, report on it, I always loved it. It was a great opportunity for me to meet with companies out there and build relationships with companies out there, something that you don't get to do by email. There is still something about being in front of people that a phone call, an email, a Zoom call just can't do. But it really is an opportunity for companies to meet with buyers. I know several small companies that put their products up at CES and met with big buyers from places like Best Buy and other stores who picked up their products. This is really a show. It's made for the most part for smaller companies and bigger companies to show off what they have, not just to the general public, but for the possibility that people could go out there and, hey, you own a store, I'm looking for dealers, sell it. And that actually happens. There are a lot of deals that get signed at CES where small manufacturers or mid-sized manufacturers do strike deals with places like Amazon and Best Buy and Walmart and Target to get their products into the stores. And without having a physical one, you're really hurting the small business and the medium businesses. Let's be honest. Microsoft, Sony, Panasonic, these companies that have massive booths out there, auto companies, they don't need CES. I would not be surprised if in 10 years, CES is a lot like E3, where video game companies have increasingly pulled out of E3 because they don't need it, at least big ones, and E3 has turned into a lot more of an indie maker, where smaller games makers can come out and show their goods. Big companies like Sony know that their products can be put into stores. They have more personal relationships with Best Buy, Walmart, Target, Amazon, etc. It's the smaller companies who are desperately trying to get attention for themselves out there to try to drive sales of their products or just get their products in somewhere or get their products in front of the press. And I think that's where CES really excels, and I think that's what CES is best at. So I'm excited to see it's back. Now, one thing I won't miss, the crazy prices. Now, I actually had a family member who was looking to get married during the week of CES, and I told them, don't do it. They got married the week before. They first were kind of like, what's the big deal? I was like, everything's expensive. Flights are crazy in. Hotel rooms are crazy. You want to stay in some of the nicer resorts? Think over $1,000 a night. You want to get food? Well, tough luck. They got a CES only menu where everything is like twice the price and the menu is a third of its regular size. Nothing more frustrating than looking at a menu at a restaurant online and being really excited about it and then going to CES and finding out that it's just not available. So that happens all the time. Really expensive, really crazy compact. 100 and some thousand people typically go to this. Hotel rooms are booked out. Cabs take forever. It can be really a pain, but it's a lot of fun. Now, a few years ago, I took my wife. It was kind of a date thing. She came with me, and we tried to do things at night. It's hard. A lot of restaurants are closed for parties. A lot of shows don't go there. I wanted to see Penn and Teller. They weren't in. So that happens a lot at CES. So if you want to go to Vegas, always make sure to see if they have a really, truly massive convention like CES and avoid it. All right, Pepsi's coming back with a return of something from the days past. Pepsi Blue is once again going to make a return this summer at participating locations. Now, Crystal Pepsi came back a few years ago, and I tried it. It's not bad, not great. Not sure I'm going to get Pepsi Blue, but it is coming back. Pepsi Blue is a berry-flavored Pepsi drink with a touch of Pepsi flavor and a touch of berry, which sounds great, but I'm not sure it's for me. Pepsi Blue will be hitting shelves May 3rd at select national retailers across the country. So let me know, do you remember Pepsi Blue? Were you a fan of it? Is there a particular missed drink out there that you really miss? Now, I kind of miss the original Coke Zero. I know they have the Zero Sugar out right now. It's kind of a retooled flavor, and it's okay. I enjoy it. I think I like the original better. The one I miss most, though, is Minute Maid Orange Soda. If Coke would bring back Minute Maid Orange Soda, I would love it. I know whenever I talk about it, sometimes people are like, isn't there just Fanta? Isn't that the same thing? No, they're actually different. Fanta was actually invented during World War II, And Coca-Cola's Minute Maid orange soda was a totally different flavor, invented a long time later. Now, Coke hasn't ever officially said this was the reason, but Quarter reports when they were looking at kind of paring down their offerings, they kind of realized Fanta and Minute Maid orange soda were similar market sizes, kind of similar taste, but not exact, and both had loyal followings. But at the time, Coke was looking to take Minute Maid into the direction of being a more health-focused drink with orange juice and other health-related drinks, and having a Minute Maid soda that was very high in sugar and calories didn't really live into that, and that was one of the reasons they dropped it. So let me know, is there a drink out there that you think should come back? For me, it will always be Minute Maid orange soda. In news that probably shouldn't surprise anybody, toilet paper sales are plummeting to below pre-pandemic levels. It seems that people have stocked up to the point where they're not needing to rush out and buy toilet paper. We're actually starting to see toilet paper go on sale again, which is good, because there's actually reports that we may be seeing a toilet paper price increase coming later this year, because the wood and the particles and more that's needed to make toilet paper is actually in short supply, and the prices of what's out there is skyrocketing. The cost of lumber across the board is reaching record highs right now as people rush to remodel homes as they're stuck around the house. I was shocked to see that hand sanitizers on sale, not even just the generic weird brands you're seeing in a lot of stores right now, but Purell, which is my favorite hand sanitizer. It's been very hard to find. Was at Walgreens. It was on sale. You could get Purell on sale. I've seen face masks and more all on sale. It seems that, with all things, we're starting to balance out in life. Often, when you get a pendulum, I talked about this a lot, if you follow me, we swing from one side to the other, and eventually that pendulum will lose its speed, lose its strength, and land in the middle. And that's kind of what's happening here. But before it lands in the middle, we kind of go the other way. So we went crazy. We bought up toilet paper even though we really didn't need to buy up toilet paper. I know there was some needs for it as people at home, you not using the toilet at school, you're not using the toilet at work and more. But overall, people bought more than they really needed. Now we're flipping the other side. People are buying less than they need because they have to work through everything they paid for. Look for this to happen increasingly on a lot of different products. My wife and I for years have talked about buying an RV. And one of the big things we noticed recently is those prices have skyrocketed. People want to get out on vacation. To do that, they got to get a RV because a lot of the resorts and different things they want to do isn't happening, or they don't feel safe going to a resort. But going to a campground where they can maintain social distancing and more is something they're willing to do. My wife and I were talking a lot about the fact that, hey, maybe we'll wait in a year or two, and a lot of people realize that RVs aren't what they thought it would be. It's not worth the cost to store it and all that. Maybe we'll pick up a 2 or 3 year old one real cheap. We'll see. I also noticed bikes, which is interesting. But in Michigan last year, bikes were very hard to get. When I went down to Texas to finish the sale of our home and close up some things for work, bikes were everywhere. In Texas, I think more people probably have bikes and different things because you're out more. Also, in the summer, it's very hot. Maybe people don't want to go riding out in the extreme heat. In Michigan, it's very favorable to go biking in the summer. And when most things were closed last summer, the idea of getting on a bike and going for a ride was something a lot of people wanted to do. That meant in Michigan, the sales of bikes were sky high, where in Texas, they weren't necessarily. Probably should have just drove down to Texas, bought a bunch of bikes, and sold them up here. But we're already seeing a lot of bikes appear on different Craigslist ads and more as people look to unload bikes that they purchased but didn't want. Other things like some custom cabinetry and more as people decorate their homes are still in hard supply. I bought a cabinet, just a little dresser type cabinet for our entryway in our new home back in October. It's still not delivered. It's just kind of one of those things. Everything's backed up. They say very soon it should be here. Our hot tub. We bought a house. We knew the hot tub was bad. Got one in June. Just this week, it's finally installed and working. It took almost 11 months before it was in and actually able to be used. It's crazy, but that's just kind of the world we're in. 2 or 3 years, are people going to be buying hot tubs like they are now? Or are the people going to be buying RVs like they are now? Probably not. People are going to look to get back into, I believe, normal life. I think we're seeing that happen with different things. For example, CES returning to in-person back in Las Vegas. So I don't know. Let me know. Are you ready to get back to normal? I know a lot of people aren't yet, and it may not be quite the time yet, but I think people are mentally ready to go do it. We'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. All right, so a little rant here. Something that to keep an eye on that I think should be a little bit more common knowledge than it really is, and that is the Friday news dump. And this has always annoyed me as a business person and citizen, whatever. A lot of people who want to hide news release news on a Friday, late afternoon, evening. Why? Because people aren't paying attention. News organizations don't pay attention, and the general public doesn't. That's because they know that you're likely not to read the news, and a lot of news isn't done over the weekend. Look at a lot of news sites that don't produce over the weekend. And that means a lot of people are going to miss big things. And the government, I think, started this. A lot of government agencies dumped bad news, bad information late on a Friday. And with the hope that over the weekend, something would happen and people wouldn't pay attention. And what's the whole thing? If it's not bleeding, it's old news. And by the time you get to Monday, when a lot of people pay attention to news again, that happens. Now, this is becoming more and more common. A lot of businesses are doing that, dumping news on Fridays and stories in the hope that you just won't see it. You won't pay attention to it. And by the time you realize it, it's too late. So keep an eye on that. And let me know, have you ever noticed that news companies try to dump bad news late on Fridays? You know, if you really want to keep an eye on what the bad news is, watch the news on a late Friday. Check out what happened last night on a Saturday morning. I think you'd be amazed at what you'll find there. All right, everybody, that's it for this week's podcast. If you like this podcast, do me a big favor. Let people know about it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit that thumbs up. If you're finding me elsewhere, make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. If you have a story or a question you want me to talk about, head over to your email and send me an email, thebreakdownwithluke@gmail.com. Again, it's thebreakdownwithluke@gmail.com. All right, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. I'll be back soon with another podcast real soon.